Every little secret, every scandal, the heartache, the deaths, the divorces, of course the lawsuits, and the drug use, even some sexual harassment. And wow, the incredible, life-altering, stunning beauty. You can always count on the biography nerd to uncover all of the fascinating facts. And this time, every 2 minutes, I'm going to pause and shut up, and we're going to enjoy some of the best footage available of our gorgeous and talented subject today. Lynda Carter, the world's most perfect, wonderful woman. Born Lynda Jean Carter, July 24th, 1951, in Phoenix, Arizona, Lynda was the youngest of 3 children. Lynda's father, Colby Carter, was in the Air Force during World War II. He enjoyed the outdoors and encouraged his family to spend time outside, often hiking, picnicking, and inner tubing. Lynda's mother, Juana Cordova Carter, was Hispanic. She loved music and dance and the arts and always influenced the kids towards those subjects. Juana had a large family of 9 brothers and sisters. They would get together often, enjoying rowdy gatherings full of love, warmth, and home-cooked Mexican meals. Lynda was always a performer, even from an early age. She remembers doing skits with her sister for her mom. She took ballet lessons for 10 years at the School Ballet of Phoenix. In 1956, at the age of 5, she went on a local TV talent show called Lou Kings. No footage exists, but this was certainly the first of many TV appearances for Lynda. Let's pause for a minute and watch some really HD footage of this beauty. Growing up, Lynda's parents had a passionate relationship. They were up and down, madly in love or vehemently arguing with one another. Lynda has said she remembers huddling in bed together with her sister when her parents were in a shouting match. Sometimes Lynda would hide in the closet by herself to try to get away from the stress. In 1961, when Lynda was 10, her parents split up. This was traumatic for Lynda and her siblings for many reasons. The kids stayed with their mom, who moved to a much poorer neighborhood. Money was tight, and her mom took a job at the Motorola factory as an assembly worker. Lynda attended Kenilworth Elementary School in Scottsdale. She grew up Roman Catholic and took her first communion at the age of 9. She changed her name from Lynda with an I to Lynda with a Y in junior high. She attended Acadia Titans High School. She was rejected by a debutante club there because she was too blue-collar and wasn't wealthy enough to meet the imaginary standards of the club members. Kids used to make fun of her and call her olive oil because she was too tall, too thin, with big size 10 feet. Lynda tried not to be bothered by this, but the rejection hurt her and drove her towards what would be a solace for her entire life: music and dance. She ended up in chorus and in the school theater. One year she played Rosie in the play Bye Bye Birdie. Focusing much of her energy on singing, in 1965, at the age of 14, she joined a band called The Relatives. The band practiced enough to improve, and before long they were singing in college hangouts in the area 3 nights a week. There were some weeks Lynda would make $25, which at the time felt like a fortune, and she felt good being able to take care of herself, being less of a burden to her mother's financial struggles. In 1968, at the age of 17, Lynda joined a different band called the Garfin Gathering. Before long, the band was singing at the Sahara Hotel in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a 4 or 5 hour drive from Phoenix, so Lynda was far away from home a lot. Because she wasn't yet 18, she had to sneak in to the venue through the hotel's kitchen. In interviews, Lynda's mother has said she never worried much about Lynda. Let's pause for a minute and watch Lynda at her best. After graduating from high school, Lynda briefly attended Arizona State University. Although she was voted most talented student there, she quickly dropped out and took up a life on the road with the band. In 1971, the band recorded Hard to Handle, later made famous by the Black Crowes. She was disappointed it was never released or sold.
1, 2, 3, 4. Baby, here I am, I'm go.
Lynda chased this dream, really her first love, of being a professional singer for 3 years. But after 3 years of grinding, she was tired of being on the road. She quit the band and moved back to Phoenix, uncertain of her future. Her sister Pam suggested she try out for the Miss World Beauty Contest. The idea was that it would give her some exposure and might land her an acting or modeling gig. So in 1972, Lynda entered and won the Miss Arizona. Many of the girls spent tons of money on wardrobe, professional manicures, and beauty coaches. Lynda had none of that and had zero experience in the beauty pageant world. She suspected her win was a fluke and her success would soon peter out. But a few weeks later, in September of 1972, Lynda won the Miss USA at 21 years old. She was stunned. She went on to England to participate in the Miss World competition. She competed but didn't win. She says in retrospect that was probably best for her ego. Her mom claims she was getting a big head and prancing around like a bit of a prima donna. Lynda laughs and says she came back down to earth very quickly. As a part of the Miss USA work, she opened many supermarkets and grocery stores, finding herself handing out root beer and cheese and cracker samples in a crown. We'll take another break and watch some of this incredible HD footage of Lynda. In 1973, she visited Mercy Hospital to encourage and give hope to those who were sick or chronically ill. We see this type of altruism continue on throughout Lynda's life, always trying to help those in need. During the years she was on the road, her father had encouraged her to send him every other paycheck that she made to keep it in savings. She never made much, but had built up a bit of a nest egg over the years. She decided to move to Los Angeles to pursue acting, cashing out her savings nest egg from her father to help her finance the move and her expenses until she could get on her feet. She began taking acting classes, shaking hands and making phone calls to work her contacts and develop new ones. It was 1974 and she was 23 years old. She was stunningly beautiful, a great singer, but had no real acting experience, and was lost in a sea of other hopeful beauties trying to make it big. She met Les Moonves in Charles Conrad's acting class. Les would go on to head up one of the major TV networks many years later. In 1974, she had her first brief TV premiere in a show called Nakia. In late '74, she guest starred in a pilot called Shamu, A Matter of Life and Death. At the time, a producer by the name of Doug Kramer was trying to make a Wonder Woman TV series. A recent Wonder Woman show with Kathy Lee Crosby had failed to capture viewers, likely for a variety of reasons. Lynda tried out for a role in a miniseries for producer Larry Gordon. She did not get that part, but Gordon liked what he saw and he showed her to Kramer. Kramer basically lost his mind, as he should have. Another actress named Joanna Cassidy had already won the role, but he was so convinced Lynda was the one that he threatened to walk off the project if executives didn't approve of the change. There were over 2,000 other applicants, but Lynda beat them all. Lynda fondly recalls standing in her bedroom when she got the call from her agent giving her the news. She was down to her last $25 in her savings account and was at the point of desperation. Hold on. Let me be quiet while you watch this. So the team went to work, shooting a pilot that was aired as a Friday night movie on November 7th, 1975. The Wonder Woman pilot was successful and got good ratings. A few days after it aired, on November 11th, Lynda was a guest on The Johnny Carson Show. In those years, the industry didn't think a woman could carry a show on her own, especially as a superhero. There were some women in comedy, but certainly not in action or drama. There were no women behind the camera either, as writers, producers, or directors. Based on the good pilot ratings, as well as the newly developing success of ABC's $6 Million Woman show, they ordered 2 more one-hour segments of Wonder Woman. In late 1975, she guest starred as a singer on a Matt Helm series called Panic. Because of her popularity and of course her stunning looks, Lynda was once again invited onto The Johnny Carson Show, February 25th, 1976. Public response to Wonder Woman continued to be positive and enthusiastic. Lynda was able to bring an earnest, authentic character with stunning beauty and a new brand of feminine toughness. Around this time, Lynda was called into the office of the Warner Brothers management team for an important meeting. In the surprise of her life, she was told they had discovered a cameraman had drilled a hole in her dressing room wall and had used it to spy on her while she was changing. They apologized to her, telling her they had fired the man and he was ultimately pushed out of the business entirely. She recounted this story many years later as a part of the Me Too movement, acknowledging that sexual harassment can take many forms. Between the handful of Wonder Woman specials that had been approved, Lynda landed her first major role in the feature film Bobby Joe and the Outlaw. Toward the middle of 1976, she won a small part in Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now movie. She flew to the Philippines, but was stranded there with part of the production crew due to a typhoon. Her scenes were not used in the final cut of the movie. Once he was finally able to get in touch with her, Lynda's agent insisted she return to the States immediately, as ABC had ordered another 11 episodes of Wonder Woman. Let's hold off on more biographical facts while we watch this footage. Her role in the series was very physical. We have some old footage of how she trained and stayed in shape on set. At that time, most female stunt work was done by males. Lynda was young, naive, and athletic enough to pull off many of her own stunts. She was on motorcycles, horses, and sliding jeeps around at breakneck speed. She was diving off of piers or swimming underwater in a special suit. She trained in karate and judo to help with her scripted fight scenes. There was jumping, flying, climbing, and lots of running. Eventually, a stunt woman named Jeannie Epper was hired who could pass for Lynda from a distance. The industry eventually formed a Woman's Stunt Woman Association from the work that started on Wonder Woman. Within a few months of the new Wonder Woman episodes being shot and aired to the public, Lynda became instantly famous in the industry and in households across the U.S. In 1976, she was on the Hollywood Squares game show and on Dinah, and in a charity broadcast called The Christmas Cavalcade of Stars. She appeared in the premiere episode of Bill Cosby's Cos. She guest starred in the second season premiere of Starsky and Hutch called The Las Vegas Strangler. She participated late that year in the Battle of the Network Stars, garnering tons of attention, which resulted in waves of interviews and magazine covers. In November of 1976, she guest starred in the first Olivia Newton-John special. In December of 1976, she met Ron Samuels at an ABC affiliate's party. He was the manager for Lindsay Wagner. They entered into a professional relationship with him as her manager, but soon they began dating. In January of 1977, she delighted audiences in the first year of the Circus of the Stars. In February, she served for a week as the co-host on The Mike Douglas Show. As promised, another 30-second break. She was a presenter at the Golden Globe Awards. On May 27, 1977, Ron and Lynda marry. Lynda was 25 at the time and Ron was 35. Lynda's sister Pam was her maid of honor. The couple went to Hawaii on their honeymoon, but after being there only a few days, they grew bored and returned home. Lynda found the marriage to be difficult and confining. She has said in interviews she felt Ron was manipulative and self-serving, in some cases only booking her for a magazine cover, if he would also be included in the photo shoot. But Ron was successful in negotiating better pay for her work on Wonder Woman, going from $1,500 per episode to $3,500 and then $6,000. ABC dropped the series after this initial burst of activity, but Ron was able to negotiate a deal with CBS for a 22-episode season and $1 million per year for Lynda. This made her one of, if not the most highly paid female actors of the time. She and Ron planned several musical specials to air on TV. They would do 5 in all. Lynda loved singing and dancing in front of a live audience. She enjoyed her work on the Wonder Woman series as well, but she was unhappy. She would write music to take her mind off of the unhappiness with her marriage. In 1978, she released an album called Portrait. In June of 1978, she began performing at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. On July 24, 1978, on her 27th birthday, she was on Johnny Carson's show for a third time. The second season of Wonder Woman for CBS began in September of 1978. In 1979, she received a Cappy Award from the Stunts Unlimited organization for doing many of her own Wonder Woman stunts. Sadly, the last episode of Wonder Woman aired on CBS September 9th, 1979. After 5 seasons, the series had been canceled. There's no wonder I was so in love with Lynda when I was a kid. Within a few weeks, she and Ron bought an 18-acre ranch northwest of Hollywood. In 1980, she signed a lucrative contract with Maybelline Cosmetics. Maybelline has said their growth tripled in the year after they signed Lynda. Her third of 5 musical specials aired on May 11, 1980, and would win her an Emmy. To the delight of kids everywhere and more than a few adults, she was a guest on The Muppet Show in 1980. Still unhappy and determined to calm her mind, Lynda took a vacation alone. She never returned home and filed for divorce from Ron in 1981 after only 4 years of marriage. In November of 1981, her made-for-TV film Born to be Sold would air. Shortly afterwards, her TV special Lynda Carter's Celebration was broadcast. Her divorce was final in June of 1982. In October of that year, her third telefilm, Hotline, would air. In April of 1983, Lynda won the Hispanic Woman of the Year award from the Hispanic Women's Council of Los Angeles. In June of 1983, having sworn off of men for a while due to her previous unhappy marriage and recent divorce, Lynda traveled to Memphis, Tennessee for some corporate meetings with Maybelline. While she was there, she met Robert Altman. Altman was an attorney from Washington, D.C. He claims in interviews he was not familiar with the Wonder Woman show and didn't know Lynda, but was so stunned by her beauty he couldn't help but engineer a way to sit beside her at dinner. The next time they saw each other was in Florida at a tennis tournament. The two really enjoyed each other's company and began dating. Because of Lynda's Hollywood life and Robert's law practice in D.C., it was initially a long-distance relationship. In November of 1983, Lynda's fourth telefilm aired in which she played Rita Hayworth. For the first time ever, Lynda dyed her famous dark hair a shade of red. We'll take another break and watch this footage. A few months later, Robert met up with Lynda in Monte Carlo where she was performing at a club. He asked her to marry him after having only known her for less than a year. They married January 29, 1984. They honeymooned at a ski resort in Utah. In March of 1984, her telefilm Body and Soul broadcast, and in April she accepted the lead role in a series with Lonnie Anderson called Partners in Crime. It was shot in San Francisco. The new series lasted 13 episodes, but she missed Robert terribly and was determined not to spend so much time away from him. In 1985, at the age of 34, she sold her ranch in California and moved to D.C. to be with Robert full-time. She began to socialize with politicians and lawyers. It was a big change from the West Coast Hollywood social scene, but she soon fit right in. She continued to fly to Reno to perform at Harrah's, and during this time she produced a makeup tutorial video. She got pregnant with her son in 1987 and birthed James Clifford Altman January 14, 1988. Shortly afterwards, Robert and Lynda welcomed their second child, daughter Jessica Carter Altman, on October 7, 1990. Lynda had to spend the last 3 months of her second pregnancy resting in bed due to some complications. This was difficult for her as she was used to going non-stop and she had a young son to take care of too. In 1991, Lynda starred in Daddy by Danielle Steele. In September of 1991, Lynda's picture-perfect life was shattered when Robert was accused of fraud against the Bank of Credit and Commerce International in what was to be called the BCCI scandal. BCCI had been accused of being associated or controlled by various illegal or criminal organizations and was a client of Robert's law firm. Here's some more pretty rare HD footage. In November of 1991, with her assets frozen, this litigation hanging over her head, and 2 small children to worry about, Lynda starred in a movie called Posing. The trial finally started in March 1993. It lasted for 5 exhausting months. Lynda was in the courtroom every day. She could not bear the thought that the jury would look over to the defense side and not see her face behind Robert's, supporting him and believing in him. This kept her away from her kids and away from her career, and it was a very dark and depressing time for her. Robert was ultimately acquitted. Lynda has said they spent a lot of time in 1993 trying to rebuild their lives and refocus on their family. She has also revealed that she went into recovery for alcoholism during this period. Alcohol abuse runs in her mother's side of the family, and Lynda had become addicted and needed help. Robert's time with the DC law firm was at an end, but he went on to run ZeniMax, a software gaming company. In 1993, Lynda's second feature film, Lightning in a Bottle, was released, and in 1994, Lynda began a new series called Hawkeye, shot in Vancouver, Canada. Although her family was able to visit her during production, she was miserable spending so much time away from them, and she declined to sign up for another season. In March of 1995, she received the Pinnacle Award for volunteerism from the UniHealth organization. Lynda was well known for her giving and loving heart, and she was always active and supportive of many charities. In April of 1996, she had a role in the TV movie She Woke Up Pregnant. Then, in July of 1996, she began filming LaVarle's Spencer's Family Blessings. In 1997, A Prayer in the Dark premiered. In 1998, she starred in Someone to Love Me. And in 1999, Family Blessings was broadcast on TV. Also in 1999, she guest starred as herself in a series called Work With Me. All during the 1990s and early 2000s, she appeared in TV commercials and print ads for Lens Express. Lynda was quite well known for her beautiful blue eyes, and many folks, myself included, were mesmerized every time one of these commercials came on TV. In July of 2000, the Lifetime channel premiered an intimate portrait segment on Lynda. They interviewed her brother, her sister, both her parents, her husband Robert, and several of her close friends. We saw Lynda briefly in a 2005 Dukes of Hazzard segment. In September of 2007, Lynda's mom died of Alzheimer's. In 2008, in a shocking and strange turn of events, Lynda found a dead body. She was alone in a boat, possibly rowing for exercise, on the Potomac River and saw a body floating in the water. She did not have her cell phone and ended up yelling to some fishermen nearby on the shore, asking them to call the police. Once the police arrived, she directed them to the body. The body was later identified as 47-year-old Helen Johnston, whose family owned a well-known sailboat company. The Washington Post indicated she likely drowned, possibly by suicide. It was later reported Helen had car keys in her pocket and was wearing a backpack with a rain jacket in it. She may have fallen into the chilly water while hiking, but her body had only minor injuries. In 2010, Lynda was dragged into court about some public nuisance charges her neighbor made about a barking dog. In 2011, we saw Lynda post about her brother Vince. And then in 2017, she posted wishing her dad a happy Father's Day. In 2018, Lynda got her own star on Hollywood Boulevard from the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. We saw her post in 2020 about missing her mom. We saw her do an interview in Parade magazine, September 11th, 2020, and she did a cameo appearance in HBO's Wonder Woman 1984 film. She was in the news in 2021 for buying a condo in Miami for an astounding $15 million. It has 3,800 square feet with 4 bedrooms and 5.5 bathrooms. It's believed that she still owns the $5 million estate in Rockville, Maryland, which includes 11,000 square feet, 10 bedrooms, and 14 bathrooms. Her husband, Robert, died February 3, 2021, of myelofibrosis, and not long afterward, her father, Colby, died in May of 2022 at the age of 99. Lynda has maintained a very close relationship with her adult daughter. In a recent interview, it was said they sometimes appear to finish each other's sentences. Robert's death seems to have drawn them even closer together. They have been in the news frequently the last year or two, attending events together. Jessica was a lawyer like her dad, but has launched a singing career like her mom. Lynda has not shied away from expressing her views or from controversy the last few years. Her sister was running for office in Arizona in 2024, but Lynda endorsed her sister's opponents. Also in 2024, at the age of 72, she did a photo shoot for Harper's Bazaar in Vietnam. In her interview there, she talked about empowerment, her legacy as Wonder Woman, and fashion. She has aged gracefully and beautifully. It's impossible for some of us to see her these days without flashing back to memories of her as Diana Prince in her iconic 1970s role. It seems obvious that she was meant for that part, and her groundbreaking run of 5 seasons blazed a trail for many female entertainers in the decades that followed. There will never be a superhero as stunning as Lynda Carter.